Okay, we're back with the 2002 Pontiac Bonneville. I've got her jacked up, double support there, jack stand, floor jack. Today we are going to be replacing the front hub assembly. The first thing we're going to need to do, after taking the wheel off of course, is we're going to need to take the caliper off, which these two bolts here, take those off, wedge under here, pop it up, the whole thing should pull right out. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they get a little bit sticky, but little wiggle, little finesse, they come out. After taking this off, we're going to have to take the caliper bracket off, then the rotor, and then we're going to have full access to the hub, at least on the front side. I couldn't see back there far enough, but we'll get these off and we'll see what we got back here blocking the holes. I know it's only 3 bolts holding this hub assembly on. Then you got this nut right here for the CV axle. But let me get this caliper off and go from there. Be right back. Okay, got the caliper off. Just went ahead and took it, hung it right there, get it out of the way. Yeah, I forgot to mention the bolts for it are 15 millimeter. Same with the ones for the bracket. Looks like there's only 2 holding that on. Oh yeah, by the way, to get them broke free, I just got a 1/2 inch to 3/8 reducer on my breaker bar. Throw the 15 on there, breaks them free pretty good. And yeah, and when prying up on these, you know, to get the caliper up off of there, careful with the tin hardware. These metal sleeves right here. You don't want to damage them. So I always go right back here. Alright, well, we'll get this broke free and I'll be right back. Okay, that took me a little bit, but I got her off. The bolts were in there pretty tight. I used my ratchet, well, used my breaker bar to break them free, used my ratchet to take them off, and when they got tough, used a extension with a socket on the end of the ratchet, basically just extending the length of the ratchet, giving me a little bit more leverage, and that got them out of there. Next, actually now we should be able to pull this off with the rotor. And here is our hub. So we're going to need to take this nut off. I don't know if you can see it. There is a nut right there, or bolt, sorry. And the bolt right there. And a bolt right there. Nice little hidden one. Those 3. Also, this has the ABS sensor / traction control sensor. It will affect both. If your ABS ain't working, your traction control ain't gonna work. But so you're gonna have to unplug that, because that is part of your hub assembly. That will come out with it, so make sure you unplug that. And it might be a little bit of a tap, because lost my train of thought for a sec. CV axle is kind of pressed in there. notice most of the ones that the newer ones nowadays, it's just the castle nut. You put it on, you snug it down to however many foot-pounds, whatever the books say the torque is, and then you pop your cotter pin through your castle nut, and done. And it's usually not even that much. It's like something like 70 foot-pounds. This one, it's full on there. There's no cotter pin or nothing. So I'm gonna have to look that one up. I haven't seen one of these for a while. I can't remember what the torques are. Pardon that, semi just drove by. Okay, well, I'm gonna get that unplugged, and I'm gonna get at those 3 bolts. See how easy those are gonna be getting to. Again, I am working here by myself. I don't have any nifty stands for my camera, so I'm just gonna have to keep pausing and walking you through what I did. All right, be right back after getting those bolts off. Okay, so I unplugged the sensor, popped it out of its little hole right here. What I did was I tucked it up here out of the way, so it'd be out of the way of the bolts. Bolts are 13 millimeter. Again, one hidden back here. Move my hand. One right here. One down here. You undo those, and you take this big nut off. And yeah, it looks like it was just the block nut. So, because this isn't like pressed in there. So yeah, you take that off. What I did was I used my impact. All I had was a 35 millimeter. It was on there. It was enough to grab, but it wasn't tight. So I'm thinking it's more 34 millimeter, maybe 33. I'm leaning a little bit more towards 33, but it's a large enough nut that a 35 did the trick. I wouldn't recommend it because you can damage the nut that way, but that's all I had here at the moment. And I'm not going to run, you know, a half an hour, go to the store just to buy a nut or socket to fit the nut. But I'm definitely going to pick one up to add to my collection. But yeah, now the shaft itself is loose. You can see it'll push right on in there. Now, I'll see if I can find a line right here. Here we go. This is kind of like my little chisel, little screwdriver without a handle. You can get it, find a good spot, tap it in there with your hammer, and then give it a little pry, and it'll start, you know, you go around at every angle. Careful with this plate though, because you might want to reuse that. But you go around at every angle, it'll start coming right off. So I'm going to pause this and pop this off real quick. We're going to check it out. Alrighty guys, she's off. Like I said, came clean off. If I can get a better angle here. Kind of in the shade, so I don't have a lot of light right here. But the 3 corners where it bolts onto, if you go in behind it and you get your chisel tapped in there, a little bit of pry. Do the other corner, a little bit of pry, right? Once you have that gap, you don't even need the hammer no more. And just like, again, light taps. You don't need to, He-Man it. Just light taps, careful, so you don't damage your plate. And then you sit there, just kind of kick it, go around the other one, kick it, go around the other one, kick it. Do that, and eventually you'll feel it loose. You can just grab it and wiggle it on out of there. Now these, as your bearings start going out, you may notice your ABS light or your traction control light or both kicking on intermittently. And that's because it plugs into a sensor. The sensor is in here reading the teeth that spin around. And if it notices a slip, it activates your traction control. Okay. If it notices a sudden decrease in speed, it'll activate your ABS, and so on. And so if your bearing goes out, not only are you going to be probably feeling or hearing a rub, or sound like you're running mud tires down the road, womp 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 womp, but it's going to affect this as well. And I've actually had the tires kind of skid on me doing that. But this one's got wiggle room. You can grab the tire, wiggling it back and forth, up and down. And I've been getting that light intermittently, so I'm going to go ahead and get this replaced. And putting it on, reverse procedure. I will add on to this after I go grab the new one and get this in place. I will have the actual torque specs that I will give you for the bolts for these, the lock nut to hold the axle in place, and for the caliper bracket, the caliper, and so on. So I'll be back with that information after I go get this new one. Okay, got back with the new one. Nice, shiny and new. Threw this axle nut on. Yeah, the torque specs for that is 118 foot-pounds. Threw the nuts in back, the bolts in back here, all three of them. Torque specs for those is 70 foot-pounds. And I will now get the rotor, the caliper bracket, and the caliper in place. Go over those. Also, got this plugged back in and clipped back together. So yeah, I'll get the caliper bracket on and go over the specs for those. Okay, got the rotor, caliper bracket, and caliper back on. Let's see if I can get the right angle here. Okay, caliper bracket bolts, 137 foot-pounds. Had to get some pretty good leverage on it to even be able to lift up on that because the bumper was in the way, but I got it. Caliper pin bolts are 63 foot-pounds. And remember, when sliding the caliper in place, you have these little rubber bushing sleeves that flex with the caliper when sliding it on. You can press it in a little bit, kind of slide it over and let them pop up into place in here. Otherwise you're just folding it over and you're never going to get your bolt in. Other than that, all I gotta do is pump the brake pedal a couple times, build this brake back up. So I depressed the caliper a little bit to slide it back over the pads. But other than that, it's done. Drop the wheel on it, pump that brake up, take her for a test drive. Okay, so thanks for watching. This was how to replace a hub assembly, front hub assembly on a 2002 Pontiac Bonneville. Thank you.